All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Morgan, and I am the Manager of Education and Research at Fighting Blindness Canada. And we are just starting to broadcast here, so we'll just give a second for everyone to kind of filter in the room, and we'll get started in just a minute. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so it looks like people are all in, so let's get going. Let's jump right in. So as I said, my name is Morgan Einison. I work at Fighting Blindness Canada, where I am the Manager of Education and Research, and I work with the Young Leaders program. So on behalf of myself and the co-chairs of this year's program, I want to thank you for joining us and welcome you to what I think is going to be a very informative and interesting discussion. So this year we're trying out this new format for our Young Leaders program. As many of you know, we would typically be meeting in person to share our ideas and learn from each other. But because of COVID, we canceled all of our in-person events this year, our fundraising events and our education events. And we're just trying to roll with it and do something a little bit different. So the co-chairs and I have been working behind the scenes to develop ways that we can still get together and be together in this community during these really uncertain times. And this is our second webinar we've done. So if you have missed the first one, you can still go back and watch it. It's on our YouTube channel. And I'm really excited tonight to be able to announce that we will be holding at least one virtual summit in the fall. It'll be over the course of a weekend, and we'll have sessions on the Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday mid-morning. The dates should be confirmed very soon, so stay tuned, but I really hope that you will be able to join us in early September for a weekend that we can all be together and engage and do important work of self-discovery, thinking about our lives and employment and education. So if you're not already, sign up for our Fighting Blindness Canada e-news. There'll be more information in there, and you can always check our Young Leaders webpage as well. I also want to give a big thank you, shout out to RBC Future Launch, who are sponsoring this program. Without their generous support, we would not have this program, so thank you to them. As always, I would love to hear from you and hear about what you'd like to see in our fall program, or if you have ideas of how you'd like to be involved, please reach out to me. I imagine a lot of you have my email now. I've been bombarding you for months with Viewpoint and Young Leaders stuff, but if not, it's mineson@fightingblindness.ca, and I will send a wrap-up email after today's session, so you can always reply to that. All right, so to the matter of this evening, the ideas for tonight's discussion really came out from conversations that the co-chairs and I have had over the past few weeks. So given current events and the important conversations that are taking place around the world, we decided to sort of shift our focus for this webinar to both contribute to this dialogue, but also to think about the way that living with vision loss intersects with issues of race and identity. So myself, I am a white woman with disabilities. I don't have sight loss, but I have other disabilities. I think that as an ally and an advocate, we cannot be silent about these issues. And I'm really looking forward to listening and learning tonight from our panelists and hearing about their experience. So whether it be in the workplace, going to school, or looking for a job, the way that our multifaceted identities interact with the world really frames our experience. So tonight we're going to try to unpack some of these complex questions about intersectionality, inequality, and resistance, and how we can be better advocates and allies. So our panelists are going to speak till about 7:45, and then we'll open up the floor to your questions. If you have a question at any time during the webinar, you can type it into the Q&A box that's on the bottom of your Zoom platform. If that's not working for you or it's not accessible, there's a way to do it over audio, which I can talk a bit more when we get there. But definitely, if you would like to type in your questions, you can do it at any point. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Danielle Mclaughlin, who is going to moderate our discussion this evening. Danielle retired in 2016 after nearly 30 years as the Director of Education at the Canadian Civil Liberties Association and Education Trust. Since retiring, she's published children's books, which I hadn't heard of, and I now need to get because we have been talking a lot about rights the last few weeks with my 4-year-old. So I think they look like must-read books. They're called That's Not Fair, Getting to Know Your Rights and Freedoms, and Freedom from Expression, Deal with It. I love it. She writes for the Huffington Post and is a weekly segment on AMI, and is just a really great advocate and activist working for the rights of people with disabilities. So thank you to Danielle and all of our panelists. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Morgan.
And you're muted, Danielle.
Can you hear me? Yes? Okay, that's great. I thank you very much, Morgan. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I think that our topic tonight is extremely important, and I am really honored to be able to meet with some very special people who are going to be speaking on the panel. I'm going to introduce people in alphabetical order. Sorry, George. George, who is at the end of our alphabet and has lived a life being at the end of the alphabet. And I would like each of you just to give us a little idea about who you are, what you do, and maybe say something about your own intersectionality, because everybody on the panel, other than me, I'm an old white lady, but I have to say that issues of intersectionality and of race particularly have been, on my front burner for well, closing in on 40 years. I've been angry since the early 80s, and I haven't stopped being angry about the way people of color have been treated. I want to hear from you what your experiences have been, and maybe as we go along, I'll have a bunch more questions to see if you have some ideas about, what can we do about what is going on now in society and has been for a very, very long time. The first panelist I will introduce is Ben Akwako. Ben is joining us from Brantford. Did I get that right, Ben?
Yep, you got
it. And where he teaches in a W. Ross Macdonald School for the Blind. And Ben has masses of qualifications. Ben, could you tell us a little bit about some of the things that you've done and what you're doing right now?
Of course. And you overhyped me because I'm not a teacher, I'm a res counselor, but hey, I'll take that title any day. Yes, so as Danielle's saying, I work in Brantford with blind students at W. Ross Macdonald School. Myself, I am an African Canadian male, a Black male. Both my parents were born in Ghana, West Africa. So what would you call that? First generation Canadian? Would I be?
Were you born here? I guess
I was born here.
Yep, you're first generation.
Okay, so I would be a first generation Canadian. I was raised in Oakville, so very multicultural. Same time, I got my diploma in social service working, as well as my bachelor in social work at Laurentian University. I went to Ryerson for some continuing education in themes of African studies and Caribbean studies. And then I'm actually going for my master's in the fall, part-time. And with that, I really want to focus on what we're talking about today in intersectionality with race and disability. And I almost forgot the main thing. I'm visually impaired, retinitis pigmentosa. So progressive, my vision has been decreasing progressively. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, so lots of important stuff. Our next panelist is Shari Clark. Sharie is joining us from Montreal, and she is a graduate from Concordia University. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you've been studying. And I believe you are also a first generation Canadian. Is that right, Sharie?
Yes, I am. Can everybody hear me? I just want to make sure that I actually did in fact unmute myself. Okay, perfect. Okay. So I graduated from Concordia with a bachelor's in human relations. I'm currently looking for work and we're possibly thinking about going back to school. I'm not really sure. My parents are Jamaican. I was born in Montreal here, which very multicultural city, loads of different, interesting, vibrant people. Majority of my friends are everything from, well, lots of Italians.
It is Montreal after all.
It is Montreal, but I mean, I have friends from various cultures, and so it's really interesting when we end up discussing things like just how we grew up. We grew up in the same city, but that doesn't mean our experiences are the same. Although interestingly enough, I feel that in some ways there are a lot of similarities. In terms of intersectionality, oh my God, intersectionality. I feel like one of the things I get a lot, and I don't know if it's because I'm Black and thusly should be more religious. I don't look like a godless heathen. I don't know. But people often feel the need to pray for me in the most random places. And it's just like, okay, but why? Like, I'll go into that later. I have a lot of feelings.
They just take one look at you and drop to their knees, or
no, often just random accosting me like, do you know who Jesus is?
Oh no.
I mean, that's not how you start a conversation.
Yeah.
Not if you're trying to be a reasonable human being at any rate. Just
yeah.
I have a lot of feelings.
It sounds like you really ought to as well.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I bet others have had similar experiences. I'm going to introduce Sarah Patel. If you can unmute your mic, Sarah, as well. Thank you. She's been involved with FBC for the past 4 years and is studying and working in the early childhood sector, I believe. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Sarah, and also perhaps a little bit about your involvement with the Young Leaders program?
Sure. So I've been part of the Young Leaders program for, like you said, 4 years. This is my first year as a co-chair for the Young Leaders. I guess I grew up in the city of Toronto around very multicultural environment, saw different people and I have a very network of diverse backgrounds. My focus always has been, I guess, as a youth and continues just in the advocating in for people with disabilities and race, and it's just been something that I've always just been interested in. So that's what I pursue. So I'm not only on the Young Leaders here, but I also am an advocate and for the CNIB. Currently, I am, well, hopefully soon, will be going back to work as an early childhood educator, but I also volunteer for a women's crisis helpline.
Wow. And because I seem to be taking a poll, are you also a first generation Canadian?
Yes.
You are. Okay, so your parents came from someplace else as well.
Well, my mom was born here. My dad wasn't. So I guess, I don't know, am I still considered first gen?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. And now, last but certainly not least, George Quarcoo. George, if you don't mind unmuting your microphone. Thank you. The first thing I have to say about George, apart from the fact that he's an unbelievable athlete, is I have never seen anybody throw an axe quite like George. It's downright terrifying. But George, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So hi everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is George. I come from Canada. I come from Ghana. I'm born in Ghana. I came here when I was 12 years old. I am a Black African, just like Ben on the panel. I currently work for Balance. I am a assistive technology instructor, and I've just been working at balance for about 6 months. So I've been really enjoying it. In terms of intersectionality, I definitely have to say people really kind of judge me a lot based on my physical appearance. Um, I don't know if everybody on the webinar is visually impaired, but I am a black male, very dark. I usually keep my hair in braids, and um I have earrings. So usually when people see me, they kind of have that, you know, thought of me being a thug or whatever, right? And
It's
which
just that you're
we'll get into
cool.
it later on. We'll get into it, you know. So cap it at that.
Okay, so like Shari, do you have people coming to pray for you?
Oh my goodness, that is just the most annoying thing like I've experienced.
But like, what do you say in that situation, right? Like, what is, and I mean, so I've had strangers come to pray for me, but I've also had family members straight up just like
Yeah, just
lay hands on me and pray over me, and like,
yeah.
what is, I never know what an appropriate response to that is. There's no, I mean,
What do you say when somebody offers to pray for you?
usually if I can, I walk away, just because it's one of those, if I can't say anything, if I can't find anything nice to say, then I should probably not say anything.
Do they tell you why they're praying for you?
I mean, if they're not offering to pray for me specifically, they're telling me what church I should go to because, and I quote, and this is a direct quote because this woman said this to me on the bus, they believe in, she said, you should go to the Pentecostal church. When I told her I didn't go to any church, she said, you should go to the Pentecostal church. They believe in healing. And I'm like, that said a whole lot with a minimum of words. So I'm broken and need fixing. That's going to do my self-esteem wonders. Thanks for that, random lady I'll probably never see again. But obviously, you know, that says something. I'm probably never going to see this woman again, but I will also never forget that experience.
I bet you won't. Actually, you bring up a really important point, and I'd like to ask everybody, you know, to respond to it. Do you find that ableism is something that affects your lives on a regular basis? Or do you find that racial discrimination hits you first? You know, being that everybody here, you know, is intersectional in many ways, you know, what is it that comes for you first in your opinion? And I'd like to, maybe I can start with Sarah. Do you find that do people want to pray for you?
Yes, I was just going to say, so one thing I guess I forgot to mention when I was introducing myself, that I am a Muslim and I do wear a hijab. So for anyone that are joining us today. So 100%, if I do not have my cane out as an identifier to show that I have a disability, automatically I'm based on my race. And a lot of times it's like, go back to your country, when it's like, I was born here.
You mean Markham? Like, what do you, right? Like, what do you mean?
Toronto? Yeah.
Right? Like,
and the other aspect is, so when I do have my cane, it's like I'm identifying as someone with a disability, then being with a person of color.
So
I think, sorry.
Go ahead, Shari, please.
I think for me, in my experience, for the most part, ableism hits me before anything else. I mean, I was walking with my dad once and this dude came out of nowhere. Sorry.
Yes, no, I was talking to Kelly McDonald, who I'm sure some of you know. Kelly is the co-host with Ramya Muthan of Kelly and Company on AMI, and he's told me that he thinks that he's faced more prejudice based on being of low vision than racial discrimination based on his being Black. That seems to be the predominant thing that people, I don't know if I want to say go after or comment on or whatever it is, but my guess is the praying for you is praying for you to be healed from your low vision state. I don't know why people think that they have the right to make comments on that, but there is an assumption that you'd like to be healed. And I think that's a mighty big assumption. Ben, do you
Oh yeah.
what do you find?
So in terms of this discussion, I almost metaphorically look at ableism and racism as like two boxing gloves, right? If you're not getting hit with the right, you're getting hit with the left. You know what I mean? So I almost feel like it's interchangeable. Where, to be honest, I don't think I get one more than the other or one less than the other. I feel like at the same time you could get hit by anyone, because when you look at it, for the example where we're talking about people praying for you and people doing that, even for myself, just like everybody else on this panel, I'm just like, what the heck? Like, I'm going back to a condo which I own and life's good, you know? Like, why are you praying for me? Like, I remember even up in Brent, or where I live, it was a homeless individual who said they would pray for me, and I'm like, what? Like,
Wait, what?
no offense, but yeah,
I'm just curious if anybody's offered to say, and I'll pray for you as well. I mean, do you think that would have the
I think
effect?
I think it's quite interesting because a lot of time people come up, oh, I'll pray for you. Want to come to my church? But I'm like, I have a very obvious identifier of my religion with me, with my hijab, and still I have people approaching me on the street saying, oh, here's a Bible, come join us at this church, or start talking to me about Jesus and things like that. And I just find it a little interesting at times, because it's like I'm quite identifying myself as my religion. It's off the bat, but I'm still getting approached to come join and be part of another religion, and that's going to apparently help cure me, because my religion is not going to cure me.
It's no good. That's
Yeah. You got to get a better one.
Yeah. I when I hear these stories, I mean, I think they're outrageous. I would have trouble keeping my tongue in a situation like that. I think that the humor that all of you seem to be able to express is pretty nice. And I think I have to say that one of the things I found from many of my blind and low vision friends is humor saves the day. It really does seem to be able to overcome the constant embattling. But when you're, and as Ben described it, two boxing gloves, when you're being hit from both sides, one by racism and one by ableism, it's kind of hard to traverse down the middle, I would think. What do you think that your own identity has, how has it affected how you experience the world? Maybe I'll ask George that first.
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, as I was introducing myself, I wear my hair in braids. I have earrings, and I'm black. So usually, when people see me, they automatically jump to the conclusion that I may be a street thug, or whatever they're thinking. I've had people on the bus. I go sit beside people in the bus, and they get up and leave. Right?
Oh no.
Just right straight out being rude, but I try to keep my calm, right? And usually when I travel, like back in the days, I was using my cane, right? So people don't usually see me as I have a disability or whatever, right? What they see is what they get, like pretty much my physical appearance, right? But usually when I use the cane, then it's a different type of story, right? Then I'm identifying myself as a person with a disability first, then the black male, right? And whatever, right? So, I've had many experiences where I've been to, like, I'm a DJ, right? I love DJing. And I've gone to different places and, asked for opportunities. People, club owners, bar owners, event promoters give me opportunities to show them what I got. But usually people don't give me that opportunity because they think, well, how am I going to see or maneuver the certain equipment they got, right? But I've been to certain places where I don't have my cane. I'm not using my cane, and they're like, well, send us a mix. Give us a little bio about yourselves, and this whole bunch of stuff that they're looking for. But they usually don't get back to me, right? And recently I met a brown DJ who I got in contact with him, and we were chatting back and forth about how to get myself in the industry. And he told me predominantly the people who owns these types of nightlife and whatnot are all white males. So if you don't have any connections to them, there's no way you're going to get in as a black male. And
So it's
that
a closed club.
yeah, clubs like the nightlife pretty much in Toronto, which is like the bars and like the clubs and all that, right? That's exactly what he said to me, right? But there's the type of things that like the type of issues that we face at myself I face as a black male, either as an identifier using my cane as a person with a disability, or just going out in the world without my cane.
So does that mean you get a kind of choice as to which form of discrimination you want to face on any given day?
It's pretty crazy. I wish I had a choice. Like I'll pick one over the other, right? But unfortunately I don't. Like it's just one or the other, right?
And then sorry to jump in, and that's awesome, George. Pretty much, yeah, I could really relate to George. I'm a little bit older, so like I still wear my earrings every once in a while. I still have like fade, and kind of just looking at it as a whole. When we say like if you have a choice, I found that when I was growing up, I never really used my cane. I wasn't at the point where I felt I didn't have to. And I almost feel that because I am using a cane, I felt like less of a black man or less of a black male, because in our culture, it's almost like you can't be seen as vulnerable. You're seen as vulnerable, you're seen as weak, you're seen like you should be the defender, you should be the defender of the family. So I almost felt my identity as a black male, like when I used a cane, it wasn't there. And then vice versa, where you being a black male, your identity of being visually impaired should not be there because you have that same mindset. So it was almost this feeling of being torn between like two of your identities and two things that really mean a lot to you. So
that's really, really interesting. I like to speak with the women, Sarah and then Shari. As women, you really have a third intersectionality where you likely face discrimination on that ground as well. Have you found that, Sarah, first?
Yes, and like I guess George and Ben, I kind of, if it's one not or the other, but I think the common one is always race and being a female is the common one. So when I don't use my cane and I go about or in my professional, network or whatnot, it's kind of undermining, I guess, my education.
So
or
people assume that you're not as intelligent or as able because you have a cane?
yes. Just because of like, I guess, of my background, that's what I feel, that I'm not taken seriously because I'm a Muslim and I wear a hijab and I shouldn't be out in the workforce or just in public, doing the things I do. Because I am I am athletic. I like to do extracurricular activities. I'm involved in quite a lot of things. So I'm really out there. I don't really let my identity stop me, but I feel like I get judged based on that. And then when I do have my cane, it's the disability first, then your identity, like your race and being a female. I've got told once, especially in the field that I work in, because I do carry myself pretty well. And a lot of times when people do meet me, they don't realize that I have a disability, especially if I don't tell them or if I don't have my cane.
Right.
And so I have been told, well, why are you in the ECE field? You shouldn't apply for jobs like this because of your disability.
So the assumption is that you can't actually do the work you're trained to, and the cane becomes a signifier of this.
Exactly. Or even just identifying yourself as someone with a disability or being low vision or partially sighted. That's automatically, it's like, so, you know, either you're verbally saying it or you showing a physical part of it, and then you being judged based on that and kind of being told like, well, you shouldn't do what you should do, or why are you in this field?
Wow. And Shari, what are you finding?
I mostly find that for me, in my experience, it's mostly been ableism that's gotten to me. I mean, I applied for a job once, and so I sent in the application, and I got the call back like that day and did a phone interview. But I was so surprised to get the call that quickly.
Nice.
That I had in my cover letter, because it was a customer service job, like over the phone customer service type thing, and so I, in my cover letter, used my visual impairment as you know, as an asset, because obviously I focus more on tone and the words people say and the way that they say them, and so I put that in the cover letter, regardless of whether or not anyone would see it. I figured, hey, why not? Normally I don't disclose. Let's try something new. And so I did. And so I didn't mention it over the phone, and I probably should have, but I didn't, because I was so like, wait, what? You're calling me now? Okay. So then I get the confirmation email as to where I'm supposed to go and when I'm supposed to go there, which in and of itself was not clear, which was annoying. So I sent an email back being like, thank you for the confirmation, but just to clarify, did you mean it's supposed to take this time, or, you know, this amount of time or this amount of time? By the way, also, I am visually impaired. I know I mentioned it before, but just as a heads up. Got a form letter response, which basically said, thank you for your response. So obviously nobody read that. So I go to the interview. Luckily I got there early. I go. There was a typing test involved. So that was fun in and of itself. But so the receptionist is the one who brings me to where they have their computers. She was like, can you type? I said, yes. And then she dictated some stuff for me to type. So I did. And then she went, let me go find somebody to give you, to do the next part of your interview. And so I sit and I wait and I wait. And for a change of pace, I waited some more. And then she comes back in eventually about 45 minutes later to go, my supervisor's out sick. There's nobody to interview you.
Oh, goodness.
And then on top of that, she went, also, it doesn't really matter if you can type. We can't accommodate you. Not we're not willing to, not we don't know how, but we can't. And the only,
she didn't ask what accommodation you might need. That was
just we can't. And the only reason I'd applied for that job with that company is because I'd gone to a job fair shortly before that, and the company was there, and I was like, well, I applied to you guys before and it didn't work out, and somebody told me basically don't waste their time, and he was like, oh no, we just hired a blind person like the other day. And so I was like, okay, well, if they've done it before, then obviously they know what they're doing now.
Or maybe they just filled that slot, right?
I don't know, but it was not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, that's really, really difficult. And of course,
if it's not that, then it's just people saying whatever they want, however they want. I had a guy come up to my dad and I and go, you know, if you go to India, you can get an eye for her.
Oh.
First of all, who told you I wanted one? Second of all, why do you know that? Third of all, what?
Yeah.
Just like, I'm sorry, huh? Just in the street, and you could tell by his voice that he genuinely thought he was giving the most like helpful of suggestions.
I think that's almost worse, because it appears that people, you know, feel that what they're saying comes from a good place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They think they're being helpful, and they really don't have the understanding of how deeply offensive these kinds of comments can be. And the fact that they're strangers is huge, isn't it?
Because I'm pretty sure if you were a sighted person and somebody came up to you and just went, so you know they have dye to fix that color of your hair, right? Like nobody, you don't start a conversation like that. No, but like with us, you don't start a conversation with what church do you go to? Not excuse me, not pardon, not do you have a moment? No, just what church do you go to? That's not, you don't start a conversation with a person who's on equal footing with you like that. You just don't.
No. The only experience I've had that in my view is somewhat startling in the same way as when I was expecting my children, there would be strangers who'd come and put their hands on my belly and say, "Oh, I think you're going to have a boy." And it's like,
why are you touching me? Who are you? What?
Yeah.
I need an adult. Like, what is that?
Yeah. And do you find that people touch you without your invitation? I'd like to ask everybody that question.
Okay. I once got off the bus to go somewhere. I knew exactly where I was going. I was actually going to the Blindness Association in Montreal. Got off the bus, went to go across the street. Some random person came up to me, grabbed the bottom half of my cane, grabbed my hand with the other hand, said nothing, and just started walking with me.
Oh, wow.
What?
Oh, okay.
Am I being kidnapped? Are you taking me to a windowless van? Are you... Does this rag smell of chloroform? Like, what is happening?
Oh my goodness. Have you had that experience as well, Ben?
Yeah, am I on mute? Am I?
No,
yes,
we can hear you.
I can hear
Okay.
you. I can hear you. Thank you.
Beauty. Yeah, I have had that experience. So I try to look at it from kind of more of a patient standpoint, because like I said, even with myself, I had vision loss over the years, deteriorating vision loss. And I was visually impaired, retinitis pigmentosa, like when I was younger, but I didn't even know like how to deal with a blind or visually impaired person myself, right? So I could see why people would make those kind of mistakes. Definitely it's important, like once those mistakes are made, to educate and just to be, and it's so hard to say because we're constantly told to be patient, right? But just to let them know, educate them, right? Or if the person doesn't listen, you just have to kind of be more stern with them. So I kind of come from the side where like I could kind of understand how some people are not too informed, right?
Yeah. And Sarah, you as well?
Yes.
Yeah. People come and grab your cane or touch you without invitation.
Yes. And so, okay, like, during the daytime, I do carry my cane, but I don't use it. So I automatically see the difference when I'm traveling on the TTC when I have a cane versus not having a cane. And there has been times where, people will offer me a seat and I'll be like, no, I'm good. Thank you very much. There was one time though that, I said, I'm okay standing. And this person literally got up from his chair, grabbed me by my arm and put me in the seat and said, no, you have to sit down because you're scaring me by standing. I'm like,
that's your problem.
Right? That's a you problem.
That's
not a me problem.
Yeah, like I have a cane. I can't see. I can still stand on my own 2 feet. And I'm saying I'm taking that risk for myself, saying, no, I'm okay to stand. And it's on public transit. And I was so stunned by the action that I couldn't even comprehend it till later on. I'm like, what happened?
I think that's the biggest sort of part of it, is these things happen so abruptly that you almost don't have enough time or wherewithal to react until the moment's passed, and then you're like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna kind of play the devil's advocate too, and kind of like a mindset of that. I think, and I'm not speaking for everybody, I don't know how people think, and it's not right for someone to just grab someone and put them down. But I think some people feel that if they feel bad if they don't do something at the same time compared to doing something. So it's almost like if that person continued to sit down and someone was standing there, they would feel bad, like, oh my gosh, why didn't I let that person stand? Like, I don't know, just kind of just looking at it at that way, right?
You know,
100%, and that has happened. People have said like, "Oh, I feel bad that you're studying," but I'm like, "No, I'm fine, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay standing. You can sit, you know." And there've been some elderly people. I'm like, "No, you know, like
Oh my God, that's the worst, right?
I'm
When the
able to
elderly are the ones
stand."
giving you a seat,
Yeah,
and you're like,
I'm like,
but you're
I'm
old.
able to
I'm taking
stand.
notes, Shari. As an elderly person, I am taking notes.
No,
No,
I
but then
mean,
I've also had the opposite. I've also had the opposite experience where I had my cane or I had it folded up in my hand, and people are like, "You're not giving up your seat. You should be." And I'm like, "Do you not see my?" So it's kind of interesting.
You just can't win, Sarah.
Yeah, it's almost like people are put in a position, like even me as a male, like if I was sitting on the bus and there was a lady standing, like it could be a position where people are like, why are you not offering that lady a seat? Or at the same time, like, oh, well, we're all the same. It's just like people are put in such like uncomfortable positions, and some people just make the decision quick without even thinking, right?
And then that's where it comes in. So if I don't offer or get up and offer me like, "Oh, this Indian hijabi won't even give up. This is what happens when you're new." Like I've gotten things like that too, and I was like,
ooh.
okay, but
You know, I'm finding this quite fascinating because it appears to me, and please correct me if I've misinterpreted it, but it appears to me that people with disabilities are often infantilized. You're assumed to be less capable than you actually are. People feel they have to step in and help, and yet, particularly for the men, you know, if you're a black man, the opposite takes the place. So George, when you describe yourself, you know, and you explained that some people see you as being threatening because of your braids or your earring, and yet, you know, if you have a cane, do you find, you know, that they want to do things for you or make you sit down, or do you know, there's a sort of a conflict there?
Yeah, that's pretty much my whole life. Like people just the experiences I go through every day, right? It's either I have the cane and I identify myself as a as a person with disability, or I don't use it and I'm threatening to people. Like I just look intimidating or whatever, right?
So you
Crazy.
really, and I got a message quickly from Kelly. He says he has you all beat because he's a very big man as well as black and blind, and he gets discrimination on those grounds as well. You know, I'm sure that a lot of people have told you that you're courageous, but I don't think they know what they. You know, do you
But
get?
they call you courageous for like getting up in the morning and facing the day, not for,
Brushing your
you
teeth.
know,
Yeah.
I'm the first person in my family to go to university and graduate and get a degree.
That's pretty impressive.
Don't ask me what I'm doing with it right now, but
That's-
you know, that's something I would be perfectly willing to be, you know, praised and idolized over. The
Right.
fact that I, you know, have friends and go out and spend time with them isn't.
Well, you know, I think the fact that so far as I know, none of you's murdered anybody is
Right? Like that right there in and of itself is a miracle.
You know, it sounds to me like you all four of you are putting up with intrusions on your identity on a regular basis. I noticed Shari's talking about getting on the bus a lot. Sarah also has mentioned, you know, being on a bus. You know, I think that's pretty difficult to be able to you know that when you get up in the morning, apart from being heroic for brushing your teeth, you know, that you are very likely to encounter both ableism, racism, sexism, as you know, for the women particularly, being seen as threatening or being seen as infantile. I think that does take more than your average amount of courage to you know, when I say you're courageous, it's not because you know how to press an elevator button. It's because you
But I
just
think
put up with you know the tabs like me, us temporarily able-bodied folks. It's a real pain.
I think I also, sorry to interrupt, I think also I personally feel even I have to be the educate even within my own community,
Yes.
just based on disability, and because everyone is like, oh, you're related to that girl. Oh yeah, she's the blind girl. Oh, that she just sits at home all day. Oh, she, poor her, she can't work, or like she can't have almost a life. And to even fit in within our own community, having a disability is very hard. We are not accepted within our own community because of our disability. So not only when you go outside in society, you're facing racism and showing your identity as a female and having a disability, but then even within your own community, you're facing ableism and not being part of a community just because you have a disability.
I think it's worse when it's family members, because I mean, I remember my grandmother, may she rest. One of the things that she used to do is we'd be sitting on the couch together and she'd be holding me, like physically, like to make sure I didn't slide off the couch and hit the floor. And it's like,
not just because she loved you.
No, she was genuinely concerned that, I mean, I remember one time, I don't remember where we went somewhere, and my mom sent me to go get something, I think like in a hotel room or something. She gave me the key and she told me where it was, and I went to go get it. And my grandmother was like, what are you doing? Like, what if she hurts herself? My mother's like, she's fine. Like, she got this. And I think that, I mean, thankfully, the majority of my family is understanding and helpful and willing to listen and willing to offer advice and things, but they're not quite as ableist. I think part of it is just a generational thing as well. But I also think it's interesting what being a person with a disability, regardless of where the other intersections lie, if you go out with sighted friends, how the perception of them also shifts by their mere association with you.
100%, yeah.
Either people are talking directly to them, or once somebody left my friend money. We were out and he literally walked up to us. She'd like help me find a chair or something. And he walked up to us, looked at her and went, "You do amazing work," and dropped a napkin on her tray. And we're like, what the heck? And he walked away and she opened it and there was $100 inside. We're like, what? Yeah. No, I don't have friends. I have carers. I have people who take care of me, Yeah. And so my friend and I, who's also visually impaired, we always joke when we go out in public, they let us out of the home for the day. Because if you don't laugh, you'll either cry or kill someone.
Yeah. Well, do you respond to these people from time to time? Do you ever, let people know that you don't appreciate either being touched or grabbed or, being prayed for or having comments made about your appearance? Do you, I know that you're all really kind people, and then you're an educator particularly. The notion that it's your job to tell people how to behave seems to me exhausting. That you should feel responsible for educating people who don't know better is in my opinion a burden. Is there a way of overcoming this burden? What do you recommend?
So for myself, I'd recommend definitely developing thick skin. Definitely developing thick skin. That's the main thing, where when you use a cane, it's those expectations that there are going to be people who are going to ask you questions. There are going to be people who are going to have them misconceptions and such. But just knowing from a place, I think working on your confidence in knowing who you are is a big thing, where the fact that that, even for example, when I was saying with someone homeless praying for me, it may not feel good. It's like, why are you praying for me? And then I'm not the one like living on the street. But then at the same time, knowing that you have your home you're going to, you have your work, your job you're going to. So just building that confidence where I'm not saying that you won't get frustrated or you shouldn't get frustrated, but not to let that rent space in your head. And just know that you could have your bad days, you could educate, but just not to let that perception rent space in your head.
I think that sounds like sound advice. I'm going to go to a couple of questions that I can see have been asked through our questions and answers on the site. Somebody, an anonymous attendee, has said, where do you guys feel like you're not being judged? Where do you feel comfortable in your own skin and you can do what you want to do? Would anybody like to answer that?
I can, well, at least for me. Mostly when I'm with my friends, because half the time we end up ranting about the same things. Actually, I've often gone, you know, I know people who are like, you know, you should be an educator and inform people. And I'm generally pretty willing to do so with a few provisos. Well, one, mainly, if you have a question, feel free to ask. But feel free to ask it in a polite way. If you ask me a question, more often than not, I will answer you. But also, like Ben said, I know who I am, and I think often these incidents, as irritating as I can find them, like I said before, they happen generally so quickly that I can't even find it within me to go, that was rude, now I'm upset. I generally am so reactionary that I'll just answer honestly anyway, because it just, every time it happens, it still surprises me. And so I'll just go with it, because I figure if I don't tell them, you know, who's going to?
Well,
it may not be the most comfortable thing, but like my mom always says, never feel sorry for yourself because no one else is going to. So, you know, suck it up, buttercup, like deal with it.
Where do you feel safe?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, where do you feel safe and comfortable? From your description of you know, things in your life, it sounds like there are a lot of challenges, but where are there not challenges?
I gotta say, definitely, it's you know, when I'm around friends, family, who are, you know, they know me, know my personality and the type of person I am, right? That's where I feel most safe. I don't know, like I don't feel very vulnerable, you know, in the outside world, because I mean, I feel like I don't really have anything to worry about, really and truly. But you know, there are certain aspects of life, and you know, like just the society we live in, that you know, you always feel like, as a person with a disability and a person with who identify themselves as you know, black male, there is a lot of um challenges that usually, you know, you face. Like I said, I'm a DJ, I go out a lot. Most of the time when I go out, you know, there's bound to be some type of incident that happens, right? And you know, if I'm caught in a mess, then you know, that kind of plays a role as, you know, am I gonna be caught by the police, or am I gonna be, you know, questioned by the police or whatever, right? Without even getting into too much details, you know, I have had, you know, bad experiences with the police, right? And it's it wasn't the fact that I had done something wrong, right? It was just that the fact that, you know, I was a black male. Usually this or that, you know, there's, I feel like there's a certain protocol that they gotta follow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is you know, they gotta be, I don't know what it is, but like they gotta be like two officers on top of you trying to detain you, whatever, right? And you know, a lot of these type of things usually, you know, like since that incident, I feel very, very vulnerable. I feel like I'm, you know, like that's when really that whole racism thing really hit me, right? Because I really don't feel, you know, safe out in the outside world. Because
Oh, well, you were committing the offense of walking while black.
right, like I said, I'm pretty sure a lot of people in my shoes, I've gone through the same, you know, same issue. You know what I mean? Like I said, I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you feel safe when you're with your friends, and when you go out, do you prefer to go out on your own or with a group of people who know you?
I definitely go with people who knows me, and you know, people who know, people who I know, can stand up and speak for me on my behalf, at least. You know what I mean? If there was to be some type of issue, right? That's
That
that
makes you safer.
that makes me feel safer,
Okay.
especially in the outside world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Sarah, what about you? Where do you feel that you can just be yourself and be safe?
I would say friends, family, and just people that I have in my social circle that I can be myself, that know me, know my personality, and not are gonna, judge or look at me differently or think of me differently.
Or make assumptions about you?
Yeah. So like everyone that like knows, yeah.
Yeah. And Ben,
Yep. The place
where
I feel safe is like I make music, and when I'm in front of the microphone, oh my God, that's where I say that's a genuine Ben Akwako right there. That's who exactly I am, and that's who like I love, and the people who make music with me as well. Because with music, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care about your color. It doesn't care about your disability. Everybody's on the same level. And then also, like I love the gym as well. So when I'm working out with my buddies and all that stuff, like I said, just like music, it doesn't care about your ability. It doesn't care as long as you're pumping the weight with those guys and you're outdoing them. You're just like everybody else, right? So that's the place. That's where the pure me comes out in those situations. And then family as well, and even where I work as well, just working with those kids. Every time it's like an event where I have to host something, it's like an out of body experience, because I just feel like that's me, you know? That's Big Mouth Ben from that everybody knows and hopefully loves, you know? So
so music helps to be a more of an equalizer. I've got a couple of questions here. I'd just like to open up to see what people would like to offer. Another anonymous person has said, do you ever feel like you need to maintain an overly prestigious character to prove to others that you're capable? In other words, do you have to be better than everybody else in order to be taken as equal?
No.
No.
You never feel that. You can just be who you are. What do you
I
think?
am too much myself to try and be somebody else for any reason. Like I'm just, if anybody who knows me well will tell you that what you see, depending on who you are, you'll see different facets of who I am, but I'm always some version of myself that is a part of myself.
And you don't and there's nothing.
I don't feel like I need to put on airs or.
Yeah.
no, I actually I'm opposite, more so when I was younger. But I know, like, because of my visual impairment, that I always thought to myself, like, I have to be better. I have to be faster. Like, I remember doing the beat test and just be like, no, I am going to be better than everybody in this place, right? Plus,
Yeah.
I got a disability. When I did a half a marathon, I was like, I have to be better. Like, it drives me. It's a little better now, but I think it does push you to be a little more competitive in things that you know that you can beat certain people.
Can I just super
Yeah.
quickly? I don't necessarily feel like I need to be better. I know, mainly because everybody's told me and I've experienced it, I probably need to work harder, but I don't think I need to act like I'm better than other people.
Act, but like just in your own kind of like.
Yeah, the only person I'm trying to be better than is me.
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. Morgan, do we have time for one more question? One more. Okay. Cynthia Cheng Mintz has asked this question. She says, do you think people from your culture judge you more due to your disability?
Yes.
And in what way, Sarah?
Ooh.
I think just in all aspects, it's just they judge you that if you're dressed a certain, like, for example, I was very thankful that my mom always treated me equally with my siblings and never pushed my disability aside or hid it. It was always out there and upfront. I feel like in my culture, a lot of times it's hidden and not to be talked about. so you are ashamed of it and the family is ashamed of it. And a lot of times I get, oh my God, wow, you dress so nicely. Oh, you tie your hijab not so nicely. How do you wear it? So they are very amazed at the fact that the way I carry myself and the way I present myself because of a disability, because it's supposed to be that I'm not supposed to dress and look the way I'm supposed to just because I can't see.
Right. So yeah, that's an issue. What about you, Georgia? Do you find that other African Canadians, you know, put you down because of your disability? George, you're muted. George, can you unmute? Oops. There we go. Thank you. What do you find that in an African Canadian community that you're judged more because of your disability?
I definitely have to say yes. Like Sherry brought up, a lot of them feel they need to you know, pray for me and heal me. You know, take me to different places where you know, they feel I'm gonna be healed. You know, that's usually like the, you know, the experiences I face, right? But yeah.
Yeah. And Ben, have you found this to be your experience as well?
Now, all I could say is I don't know if anybody remembers that song by TLC, Scrubs, and one of the lyrics are like, "I don't want someone in the passenger side or his best friend's ride." So I almost feel like, especially like growing up, is loving hip hop, even as Black males, even you get put in this bubble that you're like, oh, you're someone who's not trying, or you're someone who's perceived as like, oh, a loser or whatever, right? So sometimes I do feel like I'm getting judged by my own like race, where it's almost, what's that word? Indirectly, where they are judging you, or they're kind of not giving you a chance because you're a disability.
Yeah, that is a very difficult thing. And as many of you have mentioned, that white cane is a signifier that draws the kind of attention you may not be looking for.
I think also, if I could just add one point, I think a lot of times people feel like they have to tiptoe around us. As I can see from the group, we're all very, you know, we make fun of our disabilities when we think it's right. Like, we're not ashamed of our disabilities. And so sometimes when I will make, you know, blind jokes here and there, people are like, oh, no, don't say that, you're not blind, or just,
oh no, people have actually said you're not blind.
Yeah, and
Oh,
things
God.
like just things like, so I think, but I'm like, and I had this experience at work. I'm like, well, I'm making the joke, therefore I'm comfortable with my disability. But I think a lot of people in general don't, even in your own culture, don't know how to react to it, because it makes them very uncomfortable. It's like, why is she talking like this? But it's like, this is who I am. This is a part of me. I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it's a coping mechanism to make jokes as well. I know that my daughter has Stargardt disease, and her brothers are always making blind jokes, and it's, you know, it's what they do. My father had a mobility disability, and you know, we used to tease him about, you know, how are you going to ski like that, you know, things like that. And it, you know, when people heard this, they were appalled. They thought,
Oh my God,
the worst thing we could possibly do, but we thought it was funny. You know, so everybody copes, I think, in their own way, and I think it's the coping with other people that makes you guys courageous. You know,
I think it's also a way to just show that, yes, I have a disability and I am comfortable and I have accepted my disability. I think that's the biggest message I feel like I've gotten across when I make my indirect jokes, or just openly talk about my disability, or be like, well, I didn't know, I can't see that. And I think I've educated people around me just by putting it in conversation and making jokes, and they have come to like know more about just how it is to be low vision or blind and having a disability, and that it's okay.
Yeah, and that you're perfectly happy being exactly who you are. Thank you very much. And there's no reason for anybody to try to want to cure you or change you or make you be somebody you are not. I know that
But if you want to give me money, I will definitely take it. I don't know why people feel the need to, like, you're blind but we'll hand you cash, and no one's ever handed me specifically cash. I'm like, so where are all these generous random strangers who keep handing my friends money? Like, because I mean, like I told you that story about my friend getting $100.
That's pretty funny.
A bunch of people, she wrote about it on Facebook, and some people were like, you should have returned it, that's offensive, and then like this and that and the other thing. And I'm going, she just got $100 she literally had to do nothing for. Why are you complaining at her? Like, if you want to give me your guilt-ridden cash, I will not say no, thanks.
And then, sorry, just for that last point of joking around, I feel like when you do joke around, it opens up conversation about people who, if they don't know about your visual impairment, and you open it up, be like, oh, like,
they can ask questions. They can feel freer to ask questions.
Yeah, and they feel
because they can see that you're okay with it, that you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I guess it's your job to make them comfortable. Well,
I think the more you
which
are
is annoying, but also
your...
if we don't, who will, right? Like, if it's not a person with an actual disability, then it's whatever they've scrounged together in the media, and sometimes that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think the more comfortable you are about your disability and how open you are, the more open you are, the better conversation and the better education you can do. Because I've done a lot of presentations and education through CNIB, and just in terms of even in school, advocating on, you know, having a disability, and, you know, I'm still, you know, I'm not different. I might do things differently, but the more down to earth, the more open you are, the more jokes and friendly you are, the more you can get to know those individuals, and the more they get to know about you. And if that's the way you can educate and bring awareness, then why not?
And it's very empowering too, isn't it? It puts you in control. Yeah.
I had a gym teacher who decided that one of our units was going to be goalball. And he did that for all of his classes. And actually, I have him on Facebook, and he was telling me, this was, I think, last year or something, he was telling me that he actually kept it in sort of from that year on. And so he does it with all his classes now.
That's
so
somebody who's
just
really
but by virtue of me being in his class and him genuinely being willing to you know, get things to a level where he was, you know, for sure that I could participate without having to make any, you know, crazy or drastic modifications to things, he ended up opening up a dialogue that is, I mean, it's still going. And he was actually one of my favorite teachers, because he was willing to teach me how to throw a frisbee, how to throw a football, how to shoot a basket, how to play badminton, although I accidentally hit him in the crotch. But in a class full of girls, it was not a good moment for him.
It was accidental. Morgan,
it was an accident.
It happens in every single Young Leaders program I've always participated in, where I have to be the bad guy to come in and stop the conversation, and I never want to, because it's always just getting good when we're getting to the end. So I think, Sharie, you know, your last point there really emphasizes the importance of dialogue, right? And I think that tonight has really opened up a bit of conversation about these issues, and I thank each and every one of you for being here and sharing your experience with us. It's been really great and very enlightening. A lot to think about.
I didn't think I'd have anything to say, if I'm being honest. Like, I looked at the questions beforehand and went, I don't have anything to talk about. What?
Yeah, I was confused. I'm like, oh, what? I don't know what I'm going to say.
and then the forum opened up, and I was like, oh, I do have things to say. But you're looky there.
I'd just like to say one thing, and then I'll shut up, but I just want to thank everybody for being the real young leaders that you are. You are showing huge leadership in what you do every day, and your humor and your ability to take on the affronts that your intersectionality provides for you, all of the challenges. You know, I feel honored to have been able to join you tonight, and thank you so much for everything you've contributed.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Well, very well. And I hope you'll all continue to participate in Young Leaders this year when we join back up in the fall. there is a recording of tonight's broadcast that we will be posting. So if you want to share it with your friends, your colleagues, your neighbors, please do. It will be on our Young Leaders website. One last thing I'd like to mention to everyone, especially if you are a young leader. I know we have a lot of different people from the FBC community attending tonight, which is awesome. When you leave the webinar, a survey is going to pop up. It's a little bit about feedback on the webinar, but it's also to help our sponsors at RBC just kind of understand the impact our program has. So if you are in that 15 to 35 range, please definitely fill out that survey for us and just give us your feedback. I'd love to hear from you. So yes, to learn more about the Young Leaders program, you could always reach out to me, and there will be a lot more information coming about our fall programming soon. Thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. Please stay safe and healthy as things start opening up. Everyone just, let's fingers crossed that we're going to be all together next year. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.